Welcome into the Nebrasketball Brunch Show. It is Friday. It is December 20th. It is almost Christmas. And the Huskers are on a plane to Hawaii. Let's go. Welcome to the Nebrasketball Brunch Show. Glad to have you with us. Jack
welcome
Mitchell.
Ball.
Welcome. Oh, welcome ball. Maybe is that the new all-time intro? Welcome ball.
Also, we're on the +1 layout.
Oh, God. Boy, I am... Whether it is, it is every part of my life right now. There, it's fixed.
Hey!
With that. Between my radio show right now, between my online life, between IIT Club, like I am frazzled in every single way right now. It is that time of year where it's just like, holy cow. Maybe we ought to change the name to Welcome Ball, though.
Welcome Ball.
Welcome Ball. If we ever do another show, we probably should call it Welcome Ball.
Yes.
So anyway, again, I'm Jack Mitchell. That's Caleb Henry of Husker Max. I'm, of course, with I-80 Club and KLIN. We do the show every day. If you're joining us on YouTube afterwards, we always do it live at 11 o'clock on Fridays, and we'll continue to do that during the season. So feel free to join us. You'll hear us read some comments during the show. While we don't read YouTube comments, we do read comments from our Patreon subscribers on our Discord. If you ever want to be a part of that, discord.com/I80 Club. And we would love to have you a part of that community. It's a growing, fun, vibrant community. We watch games together. Sometimes we yell at each other during bad games, but all of those things, it's just like a family. It's fun. It is, it's a lot of fun. So we would love to have you there. Caleb, before we get real quickly to the NCAA tournament, confidence number, which we do every week at the beginning of the show, which we will update here in just a second. I do want to say one quick thing that doesn't really relate to this show a lot, although it might. I don't know if you were paying attention. Well, everybody's still a little down about the volleyball game. It feels like it's just casting a shadow sort of on everything. And last night I did my thing I very frequently do, where I am very confident, very braggadocious online about the Nebraska volleyball team. Something that I've done for quite some time, especially when they went up 2-0. And I saw the stat that they've not lost a match when they were up 2-0 in like 103 matches. It's been that long. It was so I was very confident, very braggadocious. It's kind of my thing during the games anyway. It turns out, Caleb, there were some people who were very mad at me for doing that. Very mad at me. They were getting at me in such harsh terms after the game. I actually deleted a few of the tweets afterwards. So I and I knew there would be more coming. And so I did that. Got a lot of blowback. And I think I just wanted to say I've learned a lesson after all of that. I'm going to apply it to the Nebrasketball Brunch Show today.
Okay.
So I am going to make sure and not get overly optimistic or braggy about the season after the Indiana win, going forward. I don't want to let me tell you this though. This is something I want to do for a very specific group of people that I was giving a hard time to last night. It's for you guys, you paranoid snowflake, performatively humble, new to the party, very online, ignorant of history, diffident, gullible, wildly bland, anonymous, goody two-shoes, crackpot, metaphysical theory having, bandwagon jumping, non-ball knowing, reprimand giving, finger crossing, salt throwing, horoscope reading, self-loathing, fan policing, not crack stepping, mama's back protecting, lecture giving, lesson teaching, cause and effect misunderstanding, unfun, uncool, unfaithful, uninteresting, fortune ass cookie believing, pants missing, jinx truthers.
Yeah,
that's for you. That's for you guys.
Let them have it.
I'm sorry. That was, I'm sorry that I did that last night. Enjoy your
also J-Skers.
Enjoy your fortune cookies. With that said,
I had a Texas volleyball fan get in my DMs last night.
I would rather have that than Nebraska fans.
I was like,
I would rather have
doing.
I would understand it if Penn State, Texas, Wisconsin, whoever fans are like, oh, look at this Nebraska fan who was overcome. But Nebraska fans, it was who it was.
We eat our own, man. If if you're too confident at any time, and I don't understand it, and it's not exclusive to volleyball. That's just what happened last night.
Yeah,
you see it with football, you see it with basketball. Like it just, I don't know why. Like what's wrong with being confident?
Yeah. So in any case, yes. Now, speaking of confidence, Caleb, when it comes to basketball, typically a lot more confident than I am. Look at that. So Caleb jinxing Nebraska basketball every day with the NCAA confidence meter. Get at him. Get at him, pants pissers. Get at him. So last week, I had dropped after the Michigan State game. Not a lot, from 5.5 to 5 on the scale. Caleb, you want to share? So I'm right at a 5, right in the middle, 0 to 10, likelihood of making the NCAA tournament. Where are you? Where were you after last week?
I was, because what was I a week ago? Was I a 7.2?
I don't know. You can't do these decimals. Nobody. You got to remember your own.
It's fine. Someone.
Or we need a spreadsheet somewhere.
It.
Well, actually, we have people who keep spreadsheets for us.
We have people. We have people to remember this for us, Jack. Okay, we've got people.
Okay. Well, do you? I will start while you think about what you have. Okay. Maybe somebody in the comments will remember it. Okay. I am just going to do a fairly simple thing. After the Indiana win, I'm going back up to 5.5 from 5. Okay. Like I didn't overreact to the loss. Not going to overreact to the win. They're going to end up 1-1, which is where I thought they would probably be after these 2 games. Would have liked for them to be 2-0. Would have been a really encouraging start for NCAA possibilities, but they kind of, did what they needed to do to sort of continue to be at the place where I thought they were at, which is right around that 5.5. I think it's going to be on the line. It's going to be tight when we're talking, and we might get into this a little bit later in the show, but you're talking 18, 19, 20, 21 wins that need to happen. We don't know for sure now, but I actually started looking at that. So, so I feel it's really close to 50-50, but a little step forward after a good game against Indiana. 5.5, put me down.
Okay. I am 8.4.
Okay.
I'm back over 8. I know I was under 8. 8.4. It was encouraging to see that happen. Now, I would have gone if it wasn't Indiana. And this feels like a weird thing to say. If it wasn't Indiana, I would probably be back up to a 9.
Okay.
But Nebraska has just had Indiana's number.
So Nebraska owns Indiana so much you're not even impressed by it anymore.
I am.
Is what you're telling me.
It went up almost a point, or wherever I was at. I'm at an 8.4. So
that's true.
Like it was a significant increase still because it was a conference opponent. But had it been just about anyone else in the league, I probably would have gone up more.
Yep.
But Nebraska has just had Indiana's number in the same way. You're like, what are the impressive wins for Iowa football? Well, they just kind of have Nebraska's number no matter how either team is playing. So you kind of weigh where things are. We had to evaluate where Indiana basketball was. And upon that evaluation, we decided that my confidence rating right now is an 8.
I did not have Caleb quoting Sean Eichhorst after my my rant at the beginning of it. Started off with a bang here on the Nebrasketball Brunch show today. Okay. All right. So you're still overall though, very confident. Just didn't quite jump as much as it would have after another opponent. We broke down the game pretty extensively. And if you're still sort of wanting something to listen to, Nebraska basketball content before the games this weekend, our post-game show would still be very relevant right now after Nebrasketball with Jacob Bigelow and Caleb and I. And we broke down the game and we'll talk, of course, about it a little bit more today, but take a listen to that if you missed it. So, Caleb, what I wanted to start out with today, and, it's not about patting ourselves on the back, but there were a whole bunch of times during that Indiana game where I was like, man, Caleb and I talked about like these exact things, and in some cases predicted these exact, like 3 or 4 different times watching the game. I was like, God, I hope people listen to our show today. It was on the day of the game because it felt like we were pretty accurate with some of the things that we were talking about. Again, it's not about back padding, but it's a reality.
But it's nice. Yeah. I mean, when you're right, you're right. And you know what? We were right. And that's the way it's gone into a couple of the games that we've talked about over the course, especially these Friday pre-games. Like, we were right about kind of what was going on at Creighton. Now, not necessarily that I thought Nebraska was going to not have to shoot. What did I say? I thought against Creighton they were going to have to shoot like 50% or something, and it turned out just defensively locked down Kalkbrenner and everything else that happened. And you got 43 threes from the Jays, but yeah, pretty much everything you and I talked about Nebraska was going to have happen against Indiana happened. And and what was really nice to see was we got, in one of the things we said, killer instinct Brice Williams.
Exactly. That was the first thing I was going to point out too.
You got it early, and I was sitting there and I kept looking over at Bigelow. I was like, hey, this is, you seeing this? We're getting this. This is the thing we're getting. And what does he do? He scores 30 points, and he looks good while he does it. Yeah. And to put up the stat line that he did, and I'll pull it up here. 10 of 15 from the field, 2 for 3 from deep, 8 for 11 at the line. Also grabbed 6 rebounds, drew 7 fouls, had 5 assists on the night, also a steal, in a couple of blocks.
2 for 3 from 3. I don't know. You might have said that. Yeah. 2 or 3 from 3. And the other one that we talked about with him is he had at least, maybe there was 2, but maybe it was just 1, had an and 1 as well.
Yes.
We made the shot.
And he finished when he got in there.
Yes, which was what we talked about. And it was indicative of, I think, him just kind of ticking up the aggressiveness in that game. I honestly still think he could even go a little further if needed at some points, but that was the step we were talking about for sure, right? When you're talking about 15 shots, 15 field goals during the game, that's good. And they didn't have problems with scoring droughts because of that.
Correct. And that has been such an issue. It's like, okay, you had a couple minutes here, you had a couple minutes there, but it wasn't ever anything that you are really letting this game get away from you. And to get that Brice Williams, that's what you need. That's what you're going to need to win some games. That's the reason that he was named one of the, the Oscar Robertson National Player of the Week. And that's only been something that has been going since like 2009, 2010. He's the first Husker to win that. Now it's a limited scope. It's the last 15 years or so, but he's the first and only Husker to win that. It's not the first time he's won it though, because he won it at Charlotte after posting back-to-back 31-point games in a couple of Conference USA wins.
I didn't know that till this week, but yeah.
So he's showing shades of, okay, this is what he should be doing. This is what you and I said in the preseason he has to be for this team to be successful. Now, what do you have to have around him? Now you start to have that conversation of, okay, yeah, you've had Indiana's number, and Brice Williams needed to do this. Okay, he's shown he can do this. He's gone off a couple of times. He's got to the free throw line. He draws fouls. He's impacting all these different parts. But what else do you need to have? Okay, you got Connor Essegian loose a couple of times. It wasn't a 20-point game, but he knocked down a couple of threes. He scores, 13 points? So, okay, how do you get a little bit more of that? How do you get some balance from your bigs? Andrew Morgan. Okay, well, there's 10 points. There's 4 for 5 shooting. That's an efficient day. Where do you add in all of these other things that are going to make you be a successful team that doesn't just get to the NCAA tournament, but finds a way to get at least a win, right, and move on? But number one in all of that is Brice Williams saying, I'm going to go get something right now. And he did that against Indiana.
Yeah. It's the foundation really of Brice and Juwan. I think that is sort of the base of
the combo there,
what you're building on. And until you have that, like, you have to have that, and then you can build some different things on it. But I feel like you've got to have that consistently for this team to be at its best. And I think we saw what that looks like if they're not against Michigan State. That was part of the reason why there were struggles. Also, horrible officiating. Not sure if you heard about that, but that was part of the. But in all seriousness, I think that was part of the reason there. You look at Juwan Gary's night. He was 5 for 10. He ends up getting 14 points too on that. 5 rebounds as well. So that was big too. And he, I think, will come up even bigger on the rebounds and that kind of. But he did what Juwan does, played more minutes than he played 32 minutes. So only Brice played more, but got 32 minutes in. Played really good defense. That's the basis that you're going to have those two consistently being there to keep them away, particularly from huge offensive droughts. Because if they're not there, that'll come. Now, there'll be other times when you're going to have guys who are hot, right? And that's not going to be as much of an issue. And I think the interesting question, and we've started to delve into this, but when you do have that foundation there with them, what is most frequently going to be your best other option, right? When teams start keying on them, when they start realizing that. Connor Essegian, kind of points wise, has been that guy. He had 13 against Indiana, 2 for 3 again from 3. We talked about that too as well. Remember, we had also talked about if Nebraska hits, what do we say, like 4 threes in the first X minutes of the game, that Indiana was just going to be so
it was going to be
emotionally frustrated, and that kind of happened to some degree. I mean, Indiana was really in it until the last few minutes of the game, to be honest. But
Nebraska made their first 7 shots of the game, started out 8 of 9 from the field, and you're just like, all right, are they going to miss? Like, they'll have to miss eventually and regress to the mean. No, they shot over 60% for the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know that it was close-ish until the end, but like, you knew where that game was going. Like that's just the feeling you had in the arena. And when you have that feeling, because there are so many times that Nebraska's had a lead and you've had the opposite feeling. You're like, no, this is kind of going the other way.
Yeah.
But that wasn't at all the feeling when Nebraska was playing in, because it was like they started out so good. Things got a little bit tight, but you're like, no, they're still fine. And that's a nice feeling to have, because Nebraska fans, there's only so many times we get that feeling. And you definitely had that feeling last Friday night.
I also thought the thing that the version of Nebraska on Friday night had, of course, there was that stretch in the last few minutes where Indiana couldn't get a bucket. Nebraska was playing good defense too, but Nebraska really did well, kind of on, I don't know what the recovery defense maybe is the word. A couple of like interesting stats that you would never think were true.
Okay.
If Nebraska, won the game by almost 20. Nebraska 14 turnovers, Indiana 9. 14 turnovers, Indiana 9. Nebraska 6 offensive rebounds, Indiana 15 offensive. Indiana 15. So Nebraska gave them extra opportunities with 15 offensive rebounds and 14 turnovers during the course of the game. The thing is, Caleb, and I don't have the numbers, they just didn't convert those into points very often. Indiana didn't.
So,
and part of it was about their shooting, but part of it was about playing defense too, right? And continuing to, when Indiana would miss a shot and get an offensive rebound, they oftentimes weren't getting a good second shot after that, or they would miss 3 in a row and Nebraska would finally get one.
So between turnovers and second chance, that those two combined to turn into 24 points for Indiana.
And that was, what do we say, 29, 15 offensive rebounds, 14 turnovers.
Yeah.
So 29 turned into how many points?
24.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, Nebraska turned the Indiana turnovers and Nebraska's offensive rebounds into 22 points.
Almost the same. So it was about
less opportunities.
Nebraska was more efficient with extra opportunities, is what that means.
Now, here's a number that I'll give you.
Okay.
Nebraska took 49 shots, 49 shot attempts. Indiana, 65. 15 or 16 more shots.
Yeah.
16 more shots
Right.
And Nebraska wins that game running away on a 21-4 run to close it out.
And that's another thing that we've said is like one of the problems with Nebraska is possessions where they just don't get shots up. They definitely had those. I mean, to your point.
Yeah.
With that. But again, all of those notwithstanding, they still win the game by almost 20 points. Like what gives exactly? The most simple explanation is just efficiency making shots, right? It's making the shots that you take. That's the most obvious, simple. It's the answer for any basketball game. But that's really what it is when you get to Nebraska, Indiana shooting 35% from field goals from the floor, and Nebraska 61%. Like not too far from doubling them up on field goal percentage. Jeez.
And it's not like there was a giant
weird game.
You could have thought, okay, one team ends up with a lot more field goals attempted than the other because there was a giant discrepancy in the free throws. Well, no, Nebraska only took 6 more free throws than Indiana.
Oh, and there's another stat. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, if Nebraska shot 26 free throws and Indiana shot 5, I would go, okay, well, there's your field goals attempted difference because Nebraska kept getting fouled shooting.
If they had a million free throws,
Yeah, but that wasn't the case. Indiana 14 for 20 at the line, Nebraska 17 for 26. It was a bad night at the line for Nebraska.
Right. Yeah.
Compared to what they've done this year.
Yeah, can you imagine telling you before the game Nebraska's going to get out offensive rebounded by 9 or whatever, going to commit 8 to 10 more turnovers than Indiana, and is going to shoot free throws at their worst clip probably all year, 65%. And, and have a lot of attempts.
Yes.
That sounds like a recipe for a disaster. Yet they won by 20. It's, if you do the whole like blind stat thing, what a weird game. But nonetheless, they got it. And it's just interesting to try and sort of, like we said about the Michigan State games, there were things that were exceptional that you kind of forget about, throw away about that game. Probably true of the Indiana game in some ways too. And perhaps a little bit too about what you said, Caleb. It's just that for whatever reason, Nebraska has got that program's number.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. 4 games. What did I say? Like 60 or 4 straight games.
72 or 79.
72 or 79 points between the two of them. And I still legit wonder if Indiana's ever had 4 consecutive losses to opponent by that bad losses to a single opponent in their storied history. We talked about that in the post-game show. So.
Yeah, I know there were a lot of people because you had brought it up on social media, and there were people saying, well, Purdue's beaten them so many times in a row. It's like, well, yeah, but sure. I also know in that, like, there was probably an overtime game, or there was something where it came down to the last minute. Like, to run away 4 games in a row against Indiana.
Yep.
That is a select few programs, if any.
In like a calendar year's worth of time.
True. Because because you kept seeing them. You got the regular season
3 times last year. Yeah. I mean, man, that I almost guarantee 4 times in a calendar year. I don't know when the first game was last year, but I bet it was after December, whatever that game was. So it was probably 4 times in a calendar year.
It was 4 times in a calendar year.
Yeah.
Wednesday, January 3rd in Lincoln, 86-70 Nebraska.
Or within 12 months. Maybe I'm not using calendar year.
No. It was all in 2024.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is calendar year, not even 12 months.
Yeah, it was not all in 2024.
Calendar year. Yep, you're right.
So January 3rd in Lincoln, 86-70. February 21st in Bloomington, 85-70 Nebraska. March 15th in Minneapolis, Big Ten tournament, 93-66 Nebraska. And then this last Friday, December the 13th, 85-68 Nebraska.
Nebraska football has been victim to this for other programs, right, who may not be as blue-bloody as Nebraska football. So can we take a moment and just acknowledge how funny that statistic you just read is? The level of dominance in a single year of Nebraska basketball against Indiana basketball is amazing. Like, I don't know. And Indiana fans, man, Indiana basketball is about what Ohio State football is when it comes to their coach right now, except they're way less successful with their coach than Ohio State has been.
And here's the thing. Nebraska has had, like, you think about the months that the Big Ten plays basketball, there have only been 4 potential months this year that they could have met. Nebraska and Indiana have met in all 4 of those potential months.
That's hilarious.
And Nebraska has beaten them 100% of the time running away.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick before I want to get, of course, to Hawaii. We're gonna get to Hawaii here in just a second. I want
to get to Pat Norris's fit.
I do too. That was amazing. But real quick before we do that, we've now completed the little. Do you like the December 2-game conference thing? Why do we do this? Why do they do it? Because I know like the Big East is already fully in conference play.
Yeah, I don't like it. And then like
Creighton did lose to Georgetown on
people forget.
People forget that had happened.
Because the women just play the 1 game and then they go back to the because you've got because women's basketball is at Georgia Tech tomorrow to close out their non-con.
Okay.
So it's weird. Like,
I don't know.
I don't like.
What was the original point of doing it? Was it to get some games in when the students are still there, and not have as many during the Christmas break? I don't know if that was it or if it's a TV. It might be a TV related thing. I can't remember. I remember when they first said they were doing it, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
It might be the number of games they're trying to get in and knowing how much time you have post Christmas.
Yeah.
Once you get into the new year.
Right. It just allows you to schedule non-con further out, right, into the end of the holiday break, into Christmas, the beginning of New Year. But it won't be long, of course, and the conference season will start. But I brought that up just because I wanted to. Big O just texted, he's listening. He said it started when they went to 20.
Yeah, he forgets the exact reasoning.
Reasoning. So yeah, that makes sense. I did want to just go quick over the schedule here, or the standings here. Obviously, super early, only 2 games in, but your 2-0 teams in the Big Ten are UCLA, Michigan State, Michigan. No huge surprises there. You kind of feel like. Yeah. You kind of feel like perhaps those are maybe 3 of the teams that you did expect to be competing for the top of the league. The other one you would have said is Illinois. They're 1-1. Purdue's 1-1. Would be another team in that group. Everybody else is 1-1 then, except for the 3 at the bottom, and that's Wisconsin 0-2. Interestingly, Washington 0-2. Not surprising. Minnesota 0-2. I think Washington and Minnesota are at a different level on the bottom of the league than anyone else right now. And that one of them will beat me, and then I jinxed it, and then I'll get yelled at Twitter. But that's my thought right now, looking at the league. And then you've got the giant, Caleb, like the freaking giant middle of the league, which is Rutgers, Ohio State, UCLA, Northwestern, Iowa, Indiana, Nebraska, Penn State, Maryland, maybe Michigan State. It's just it's massive. That whole and then whatever, and we'll see what that top group is then, because I'm not even sure exactly what that would be right now. But it's really early, but it's interesting to kind of start to look at how that league is going to break down. Right now in KenPom, for instance, the top Big Ten team is actually UCLA at number 13. Maryland at 16, Illinois at 17, Michigan State at 18. Then you got Oregon at 21, Purdue at 22, Michigan at 23. Are you kidding me? That's what, 6 teams in 10 spots? That's wild.
Yes.
Wow. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 6 teams in 10 spots. That's what it is. So that's crazy. Just how clumped it. And then you don't have to go a lot further down till you get to the Penn State, Wisconsin, Ohio State group, and then after that you kind of get the Indiana, Nebraska, Northwestern group as well. So
and it could have been a little bit different. Let's say Illinois closes out number 1 Tennessee.
That's true. Yeah,
like there are opportunities for this league that have been out there that just haven't capitalized.
God, the most annoying thing possible, the SEC is looking like a power conference this year in basketball. What is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening? There may not be an SEC team in the football championship again, but now they're taking over. I mean, outside of Lexington, Kentucky, considering the SEC like the power conference in basketball is wild, but Auburn, Tennessee, Florida right now. One loss between those three teams. Throw in Alabama too, so it's kind of an interesting setup right now. All right, let's talk about this weekend, Caleb.
Yes.
Nebraska goes to Hawaii. If you have not yet seen what Caleb was referring to, the picture of Pat Norris, who is our fellow Jack Mitchell softball experience, softball teammate, shaved the beard to a mustache and went full Magnum PI for the plane ride to Hawaii. Amazing, Caleb. That was I was having a terrible morning, and that cheered me up.
Here, I can. This is.
Are you going to try and find the picture? Yeah, Pat is. For those who don't know, Pat is the equipment manager for the basketball team, and a friend of ours. And the and he normally has a beard. Well, if you've watched them, you've seen him on. I can bring it up here. Okay.
So, oh my God.
There you go. For those watching on the video, you can see the look.
It is so good,
Pat. And
so good, Pat.
And the funniest thing is someone zoomed in for those who are looking at Bear K over his shoulder.
Just like a proud dad,
funny.
That's my boy over there.
Funny. Oh my gosh!
And he's got a Detroit Tigers hat on, too.
Right? That's what Magnum PI wore. That's the full Magnum PI outfit. So
oh my God!
I asked Pat. I messaged him, or I guess I tweeted him. I was like, "Did they get you a Ferrari there too?" And he said, "No. I wish I would have thought of that." So. Yeah. By the way, real quick, I want to pay attention to our commenters real quick. Alex says, I was not familiar with Michigan State's game this season until we played them. Not like any stars, but one of Izzo's deepest teams in years, especially up front. 4 legit guys who are 6'11". Yeah, their size was incredible, as we found out with them. So that'll be interesting. And then let's see any other notes here that are relevant. Well, Cam says Murray State will be a tough out, starting to talk about the field. Let's go over the field here, Caleb, in what is it called? The Diamond
Head Classic.
I hear Diamond Head, and I keep thinking Diamondback, and then I keep thinking Arizona. I thought for a long time that this thing was in Arizona, and it's very much not.
It is the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic.
So this is the
Simplify Arena at Stan Sheriff Center in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Sounds nice. This is one of those ESPN made-for-TV MTE events, right? Mm-hmm. ESPN owns it. It's kind of like a bowl game in some ways, where it's basically made for TV completely.
Yep.
The field, if you don't remember or haven't seen it yet, game 1 is going to be Sunday, Oregon State and Charleston. Nebraska played Oregon State last year, remember, in Sioux Falls, and blew them out of the water. Game 2, Loyola Chicago versus Oakland. Oakland, of course, Loyola Chicago and Oakland have both in their recent history been NCAA Cinderellas in the tournament.
Fun teams to watch.
The year. I mean, Loyola all the way to the championship, but or the Final Four. And then the Nebraska game is next, and that's Murray State, and then there'll be one game after the Nebraska game, and that will be Charlotte at Hawaii. The thing you also want to know, I want to double check this, Caleb, is a lot of this stuff, if you pull up the website or see it other places, you will notice that it's in Hawaii time.
Yeah. So I if you add my screen, I'm sharing the bracket, and it's got it all with Eastern time.
Beautiful. Which still not us, but better than the one that I was looking at.
It's a lot easier for us to translate than Hawaii time.
So the game on Sunday will be at 8:00. This coming Sunday, 8:00. Kind of a late start, not outrageously late, but a later start. And then if Nebraska wins, the Monday game will be at 9:30 Central Time against either Charlotte or Hawaii. If they lose, it will be. It says 11:30. It'll be later than 11:30, I would think, Caleb.
Right.
It'll be closer to midnight, I would guess.
Yeah, it'll be at the earliest at 11:30
on
Monday night.
On the losers game. Wait, it says the losers game is Tuesday. Oh, because it's AM. Got it. Because it's past midnight. I forgot. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. So yes, it's the 23 into the 24. So Monday night into early Tuesday morning. So you could be spending the wee hours of Christmas Eve watching an 0-1 Nebraska basketball team try and win in the losers bracket. Hopefully that's not where they'll be. Hopefully they will win. And if they win, then on Monday they would go to the championship, which will be Christmas night, 7:30. Depending on where they go, they can also play at 5:30 or 12:30 or 2:30. It just, there's a lot of permutations. I actually put a tweet out a couple of days ago that showed every permutation, but you can look at the bracket. You can see it now if you're on our screen. So I've got to look at Ken Palm's again, or the ratings again. My memory is that Oregon State right now probably is the best team in the field, not named Nebraska at this point. You go by Ken Palm, and I know it's not the end all be all, but I kind of like it as a guide for this. Nebraska is 53. Oregon State is 63. And then I believe, let's see, I'm just going down the field. Charleston is 129.
So that's a big drop off to get to the third one.
Yeah, Loyola. That may not be the third one. Loyola Chicago is 104. So they're kind of similar. Oakland is 217. So not maybe looking like the NCAA tournament team that they were last year. Murray State is 110. That's who Nebraska plays in the first game. Charlotte is 200. And then, you're not going to get a lot of quality wins in this whole thing. And then Hawaii is 188. So Murray State might be the next best team after Oregon State, behind Nebraska right now, just in terms of these ratings. Obviously, don't want to sound overconfident. Nebraska may not win the whole thing, but that's what it looks like right now. That's probably going to Oregon State, Murray State, probably the biggest challenges for Nebraska in the field.
Well, and it sounds like when you look at that, because Murray State, like you said, 110, Charleston 129, your two biggest games, sans getting Nebraska, like on the first day, you are setting up your top four teams are playing each other. Oregon State, Charleston, Nebraska. Murray
State. If you believe the Ken Palms,
if you go by the Ken Palm,
right. I mean, I could look at NET ranking, but I don't know how helpful that is for that kind of a thing. But actually, that would be most helpful, Caleb, to know just in terms of what quad these might be. And on that one, because I believe since this is a neutral site game, anything in the top 75 would be top 50 would be a quad one win. Now here, Oregon State's 31 right now in the net. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Charleston 136. Murray State isn't
126.
126. Okay. Hawaii down at 195. And then Oakland is 258. Jeez.
Yeah, Charlotte's 248.
240. Yeah. It looks like, and then what did we say Murray State was? Forgot what you said Murray State was. 126. 126. Okay, according to that, Oregon State is definitely the biggest challenge. In this. But bottom line is, and I think somebody said this earlier in the chat. I think this was DPM said this earlier. He said the game Friday is the biggest game of the year. The real ones know the Kansas game didn't keep Nebraska out of the tournament in 2014. The loss to Central Florida in their MT did. Big game on Sunday. He meant Sunday in the first part.
Yeah.
He said so. Meant Sunday, and I agree with that. And the first game controls so much then of the quality of the teams that you play going forward. Obviously, ideally, you want to go 3-0, and to get the resume benefit from this, you want to play it probably. Obviously Murray State first. You probably want Charlotte next, and then you probably want Oregon State in the championship to maximize that whole thing. And it's so weird because the schedule this year, Caleb, it's felt like a football schedule for Nebraska over the last month. One game a week. It feels like the Indiana. It was a week ago. We do these shows on Friday, and it seems like the game was forever ago.
Well,
that they last played.
Yeah, because that game was so immediately after. We basically did a pregame for the Indiana contest. We've had almost the maximum amount of time between it to be like, okay, now this next one's coming up. Well, now between now and next Friday, they'll play 3 games. So it is
totally different schedule. Yeah, body schedule for them.
Yeah, so it is a massive week when you're looking at what is the opportunity in front of this team, and no, it's outside of Oregon State. It is not the level of team that is necessarily going to show up on the resume when you're looking at where can you get into the NCAA tournament if you're on the bubble or where you're at between seeding. That said, a loss will show up on there. So that is the thing, and that's exactly what the folks in the Discord are talking about, is that this isn't one that's going to propel you to the NCAA tournament, but it can certainly be one that keeps you off of the bracket. So, and this is why when we talked about the non-conference, it was St. Mary's, it was Creighton, and it was Hawaii as a whole. It wasn't just, can you go win a game in Hawaii? Can you go 2-1? It was as a whole.
Right.
And that's the way it's going to be judged, Nebraska. When we do this show again in a week, how did Nebraska as a whole do over 3 games in Hawaii?
Yeah, because, you start looking, and I know the NCAA tournament there's not like a number of wins that they look at the full resume. But, let's be honest. Getting to that 20 win mark feels like it matters, right? Just when you're looking at the records, and if you can, staying at single digit losses. So Nebraska sits at 7-2 right now. They've got 3 games in Hawaii left. Southern comes to Lincoln for a single game, and then they're in conference for the rest of the year, and that's 18 more games because they have a 20-game schedule, right? So that's 22 games left, and they've played 9. To get to 20 wins, they would have to get 13 remaining wins, right? Let's say they get all 4, they still have to get 9 in conference. That's finishing 500 in conference the rest of the year. To get to 20 wins in the regular season. So, you just think, and you're going to losing games here. I don't know what a reasonable number to expect of wins in the conference is. I really don't. And I don't really know. I feel like you probably, if you're 10-8, or excuse me, 10-8 for the rest of the year, but 11-9, 11-9 overall, then that's probably the beginning point where you start to think that's kind of the bubble territory. I don't know, maybe 500 in the conference does it, but that would give you 20 wins if you went out to be 500 in the conference. But you're going to start to get in that range where in the Big Ten, Caleb, is going to be so freaking tight in terms of the standings and the bubble as well.
Yeah. I think if you lose a game in Hawaii, especially if it's a game not to Oregon State, because here's the thing. I think if you run away with the first 2 and you lose something tight to Oregon State, I think that's a little bit different conversation. I still think you definitely want to go 3-0 when you're looking at the rest of the year. But let's say you go 2-1, and that one loss is not to Oregon State. You probably have to win 13 Big Ten games at least, which means you have to go 12-5 the rest of the way in the Big Ten.
Jeez.
Or 12.
No, 12. Yeah, your losses are low. Your losses
12-6.
are low. Yeah.
12-6.
12-7. 12-7 because they've got 1 loss so far. So one more would be 8.
No. They've already played 2 games. I'm saying 12-6 the rest of the way. So you would have to be 13-7.
Oh, gotcha.
Overall.
Gotcha. Yeah. The other thing is, you are now 0-2 in quad 1 games. Nebraska is. Creighton losing is fun, but it's also kind of not fun.
It's not helpful. It's not helpful at all.
Nebraska no longer has a quad 1 win against Creighton, according to the NET rankings. That is now a quad 2 game. I don't even know where Creighton's rated now. I'm kind of a 80. So that's got to be 75 to be a quad 1 win, I believe, on the road. So they bounced out of that. The two quad one losses then are at Michigan State and and the St. Mary's neutral, I assume.
Yeah.
At this point. Now Nebraska's 2-0 in quad two games, but Oregon State, as it stands now, would be a quad one win.
Yes.
Right? It's in the top 50. It's a neutral site game. So that's a potential quad. Will it stay that way? I don't know. Like, I don't even know what Oregon State, who are they playing? Are they doing the West Coast schedule? Yeah, they're doing the West Coast Conference schedule this year. I forgot about that. By the way, Oregon State lost to Oregon by only 3. So to give you that's probably their best competition so far this year. But still beat Cal State Fullerton, beat UC Irvine, beat Sacramento State, blew out pretty much everyone other than, and then they had a loss to North Texas.
Oh yeah, they've got
that's where they are right
now. I mean, they're going to see Gonzaga.
Yeah, I assume they'll see St. Mary's too.
They'll see Gonzaga twice. St. Mary's
twice. Same
twice.
Thing.
Yeah. Yep. So so you've got those 4 games. They'll see Washington.
They need a win in this tournament too, don't they?
Yeah, they need this a lot.
They need a quality win against a Big Ten team. That they want Nebraska in this tournament. They'll get their shots at Gonzaga and St. Mary's, but playing a West Coast schedule, that's those will be the big ones.
Yeah, because
make hay with their resume.
After Hawaii for them, they maybe have like 5 good games left.
Yeah.
So the opportunities are not there for them. In the same way that for Nebraska, I know it's difficult to talk about Nebraska going 13-7 in the Big Ten, but that opportunity is there for Nebraska to make up the difference.
Yeah.
It's not really there for Oregon State.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then Alex makes a good point too. We're talking about the good win, the Oregon State, but probably more important is avoid the quad 2 and quad 3 losses.
Yes.
And he makes a very good point with that as well. Yeah, you definitely especially the quad 3. Like we said, Murray State's at 126 right now, but you get below them and all of the rest of them could easily end up quad 3 loss. Murray State could, for that matter too.
Yeah.
End up a quad 3 loss.
Let's go 3-0 and don't even worry about it. And I know that's easier said than done.
No, it's yeah.
But can control what you can there. Oregon State should run through the top part of that bracket. Should. I mean, things can get weird in some of these. Think about UConn went 0-3, know, in their MTE, and they won the last couple of national titles. So
yep.
So things can get weird in these. For Nebraska, don't let it get weird. Right. Have Brice Williams come out, killer instinct. Hopefully, because you're bigger physically, and I know that was an issue with Michigan State, and I know Indiana, even though Nebraska's had their number, they're able to match up better. You should be able to out-physical these teams, whether it's Juwan Gary and Brice Williams, or it's getting Connor Essegian open, Andrew Morgan getting double digits in the scoring. What can Berkay do for you? I know he's been a little bit hampered, but man, this is a giant opportunity for you after a couple of Big Ten games to go get right and go just be a bully and go bully some teams around in Hawaii. Hopefully get to an Oregon State team in the championship, and if it's not them, go bully whoever does come out of that top half.
Yeah. I'm not going to act like I know anything about Murray State's roster, so I'm just kind of looking through right now to get kind of a sense of how big they are. Their top 3 rebounders, their guard, they have a guard that's their top rebounder right now, who's 6'7". He's got 6 rebounds a game. Their second leading rebounder is 6'8". A forward, their third leading rebounder, 6'7". Their next one, I'm getting the sense, another 6'7". This is one of those teams where everyone's 6'7" or 6'8". It's like when you pick all the when you play NHL, or when you play hockey on Nintendo and you pick all the medium guy.
Yeah, everyone is between 6'5" and 6'7". What is this, Florida baseball?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a kind of a deep cut, but that is exactly right. I'm not seeing as I go through. Yeah, they don't have anybody bigger than 6'8" that plays regularly, at least. So that's what I was wondering, if in some of these games, Nebraska is going to get back to what we saw in kind of the early season games against mid-major teams where Nebraska just had a big size advantage in those games, and that the other teams tried to shoot Nebraska out of the gym for the most part. And maybe we'll see more of that again, as opposed to what we saw in the two Big Ten games, as you were pointing out earlier.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. They're not big. It should have got a scouting report. Bigelow might know, or he may not know that much about them. 3-point shooting, like kind of stats. If you're wondering about some of the things for Murray State, percentage wise, they're at 38.6 from 3-point percentage, 12 turnovers a game, 78 points a game. Just to kind of give you an idea. I don't know how much of an idea it gives you because you just don't know a ton about exactly who they've played. And top scorer is Jacoby Wood. He's a senior from Cleveland, Tennessee. So that's about as much of a scouting report as I can get you, which is just reading their roster off the ESPN page. Cam says on the chat. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, Cam says on the chat, he says about some of the other things. Oregon State schedule is wild. Loyola, Illinois is a solid team too. He said, how would we feel if they go 2-1? I mean, it feels to me like it just raises the bar of what they have to do in the conference, which is going to be the harder part of the schedule to get. And especially like we said, if it's a loss that looks bad in the net at the end of the year. I suppose if it's Oregon State and they end up staying up there, that won't be all that damaging. But no matter what, like it's exactly what you said, Caleb. Like these are three that if you lose one, you are really, really, really going to look back at in late February and early March and say that wish that you had it back. Would be
exactly. And right now, if you're Nebraska, like you haven't necessarily had that loss yet. Like you haven't had that loss where you go, gosh, that is one that the committee looks at and goes, I don't know if we can bring them in.
Incarnate Word, Samford. Let's see, what was the run? It was 4 years in a row in December where they had that loss. Incarnate Word, was it Gardner Webb? Maybe it was one of them. That was a miserable 4-year streak. They did it every freaking year. Sorry to bring that up, but just to echo your point, you're right. They haven't.
But so they haven't had that. And this is the fun thing and the challenging thing about these MTEs. Because for Nebraska, you've had a week off. You're going to go 8 days off between playing games, and then you're going to see a weird opponent because you're playing, and then you're playing again the next day, and then you get a day off, and then you're going to play on Christmas. But it's weird, and you're in a completely different time zone. And you're not in front of necessarily a home crowd, whether it's yours or the opponent's. It's the weird neutral site, and it's who can afford to go to Hawaii for Christmas. Like
it's going to be a problem. I bet that's going to be just like an empty gym type, a junior high gym type situation feeling.
So everything is a little bit funky with it, but that also takes away the advantage that, say, if you were playing at Murray State, like you got a weird home and home type of contract. Yeah. You're not doing that. Yeah. You're not playing at Oregon State in the championship if you get to that point. So there's opportunity there. And for this team, all you can do is just go play that next game. I know that's a lot of coach speak type of thing, but that's what they have to do. And that's what, as you pointed out, this team has failed to do in a lot of Decembers. Just go take care of business. And if Nebraska can get through Hawaii unscathed, we will be able to say they went 2-1 between St. Mary's, Creighton, and the Hawaii tournament, which is what we said in the preseason they needed to do. Went 1-1 in the weird early Big Ten. This is exactly where the team needs to be going into 2025. But you have to take care of business in Hawaii.
Now, to your point, they did it last year. The Creighton loss last year, but that was the only non-conference loss last year.
Yeah,
and remember the discussion was the schedule hard enough? That was the worry the entire year, is that they didn't challenge themselves enough in the non-conference. They've got the extra loss. Well, they beat Creighton. And they've got the St. Mary's loss instead this time around. You win this tournament, though, you feel like it puts them a slight notch ahead of where they were last year. Don't you think so? With the non-con schedule, maybe just a touch ahead of where they were. They made their hay last year, obviously late in the season.
Yeah. Well, last year's non-con was bad.
Yeah, it was.
And I know we've talked really about how this year's was not great, but North Florida ended up being decent.
That's a great point. Yep.
Like there are things that showed up. UTRG Alphabet, I still think is going to be weird.
I haven't checked on them. 227. They're definitely up a lot from where they were. North Florida 172. But it's not. They're not quad 4 though.
So like there are things that played themselves out for this schedule this year.
Yep.
We should note that when we get to those Hawaii games, there will not be an after Nebrasketball.
Yes, because no one is going to be available, especially at like 2 a.m. If that's
no, I will not
happen. But we will, and then then they play Southern on Monday, December 30. I don't think we're going to do on that one. It's an 8:00 one, and we'll get back to it though. Starting with the Big Ten game. By the way, Caleb, real quick, I know we're about out of time here, but have you looked at how the Big Ten conference starts? I guess outside of those first 2 games, the ones that start in 2025. Nebraska's going to be an underdog in 4 of its first 5 games.
Yeah, I had talked with Bigelow about this stretch and how massive it is.
At home against UCLA on January 4th, right off the bat. Big. I mean, wow, what a big game right away in PBA on a Saturday afternoon at the end of the holiday break. Not for university students, of course.
Right.
Although that's true. You're not going to have a lot of university students there at that game, which is a little bit of a bummer. And then you go to Iowa, where you'll be an underdog. You're the road team there on Tuesday, the 7th, a night game. Then you go to Purdue. Yeah, they might be ready for a little revenge at Purdue, although that's a sleepy 11 a.m. tip,
Sunday,
11 a.m. Central on a Sunday, while I presume their students might be gone still. Nebraska doesn't get started again until after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I know that.
Yeah.
Then they come back home for an 8:00 Thursday game against Rutgers. That may be the one that they're a favorite in this whole stretch. And then they go to Maryland, who's hot, for another 11 a.m. Sunday game. That's the first 5 games. That's January, and that's January 4th through 19th. So play, wait 2 days, play, wait 4 days, play, wait 3 days, play, wait 2 days, play. So, I mean, it's a whole different world than what they've been doing schedule and travel wise so far this season. So there you go.
Sorry, I was just I just saw the news on the ABCA Player of the Year.
What? I wasn't Lexi, was it?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
The Pitt gal?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
All right.
There's that.
Thanks for bringing it back to volleyball at the end.
You're welcome.
It's nice bad memory. After somebody said earlier in the chat in the Discord, Nebraska basketball is the least doom-ridden sport. And there's some kind of truth. There's kind of some truth to that, right? It's actually a little bit. We joked earlier at the beginning about how I was too positive, too optimistic about Nebraska volleyball. Everyone gets too negative about Nebraska football, it feels like, when it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it's justified, but everyone gets so negative about that, so positive about Nebraska. Sometimes it feels like Nebraska basketball is kind of right in the middle where no one's expectations are
just low enough.
You're right. They're not like, and also there's not an assumption that they'll fail like you have with Nebraska football either. They've pulled through enough times in big situations or in individual situations throughout a season that you're not sure they're going to fail in the way that you are football is. Right. So it's kind of like, like Papa Bear too hot, right? Baby Bear too cold, Mama Bear just right situation, if you will.
All right.
There's enough of that. That's it for That's it for the Nebrasketball brunch show as we are about to hit 1 hour on the clock. Now, couple of things to look forward to. It's a little bit of a different deal for all of our schedules, as Caleb was mentioning with the holidays. No after Nebrasketball shows for Hawaii. We will do tomorrow morning our regular Saturday morning show for I-80 Club subscribers. So if you would like to watch the coffee show, we will be doing that. I believe we're at the regular time at 9:30 tomorrow. But check the I-80 Club Twitter for any updates on that. And that's for members only. So if you're not a member yet and you want to be involved in those shows or in our live audience for this show, patreon.com/I-80 Club. And then I believe we are kind of off for a little while, unless I know Josh is going to do a couple of things. He's going to have a +1 with a Boston College, somebody who covers Boston College. And then he and Connor Happer are going to do something on Saturday morning, the day of the bowl game as well. I'm going to be out of town, so I'm going to be kind of offline for a while, hopefully recharging my battery, and then getting back to everything the week after the bowl game, back to normal schedule. A lot of afternoon basketball. Josh and I'll get back to our Wednesday and Saturday regular shows. I suppose that'll be the week after because New Year's is also on a Wednesday. And then anything else, Caleb, on Husker Max as we get into the holiday season and bowl season?
No, just continuing to follow the transfer portal and everything with where players are going, links to all of that and a lot of the I-80 stuff, all at huskermax.com.
Awesome. Hey, thank you everyone for joining us. Great crowd. Discord, I-80 Club members. Shout out to Alex and DZ and Matt and Cam and Bayman and anybody else that I met. DPM was in here before watching. DPM's graph is going to come out a little bit later with our confidence picks as well. Thanks so much, everybody. If I don't talk to you again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you around in the club. Bye-bye. End. Oh, whoops.